So about a week or so ago on the channel, I made a video that, surprise, surprise, got a lot of people talking, and that was of course talking about the future of the Nintendo Switch. Not so much what we have right now, but what's going to happen next. Will there be a full-on successor to the system? Or is Nintendo just going to make a super Switch, a more powerful Switch, and keep the same sort of core mentality that the system currently has? It's honestly a very interesting topic because something like a refresh or an upgrade could happen really at any point in time, whereas a full-on successor probably wouldn't happen until maybe 2024. And then of course you have to think about, well, what is the full-on successor going to be? It's not like Nintendo really follows a pattern when it comes to their new systems. A lot of times they change things up drastically different from one console to another. Would that even be a smart decision to do? It's a video I encourage you guys to check out if you haven't yet, of course, after watching this video, but it seems like we might have a little bit more proof of what Nintendo is planning for the future of the Nintendo Switch as it stands right now, as now there's been two distinct instances of them using some secret sauce when it comes to the graphics of games that seems like it could be something becoming more and more prevalent, and I think would be a very good thing. Now, one of the things we've all talked about with this next Switch system, whether it is a refresh or a full-on successor, is of course DLSS technology. And what is DLSS technology? Essentially, it's artificial upscaling. You don't have to necessarily rely on the power of hardware in order to make graphics and frame rates look and run better on certain platforms. It's designed for lower efficiency platforms to actually have better things like better visuals and better performance, because it's all done in a really weird way. There's lots of technology behind it and stuff, but you do essentially have to have a little bit of special hardware and stuff in order to utilize that. Now, this is something that is made by NVIDIA, so you would think, well, the Nintendo Switch is an NVIDIA product. Why isn't this something that's already been used? Well, the Tegra X1 that is actually used within the Switch that we have now on the market, that is for all Nintendo Switch systems, actually does not support DLSS technology. It's the more current NVIDIA products. So this is something that I think a lot of people are banking on in the future to be what Nintendo does, to see the route that Nintendo ends up going with this, because it just makes sense. They're obviously not a company that's interested in the power wars. They're more interested in the efficiency wars and how they can get the most out of the least amount of technology. You might like that, you might dislike that, but at the end of the day, that's just sort of their mantra when it comes to things like that. Everyone can always say, well, oh, graphics don't matter. It's about the gameplay, or it's about the story, or the controls, or the game experience that you get. And I think you're right, but you do have to have a certain standard when it comes to graphics. You do have to have a certain mindset when it comes to things like frame rates and stuff, because if none of this stuff mattered, we would have never evolved past the 8-bit generation, because why would you? Graphics don't matter, right? We can all just play these NES games and NES visual style games, which do still have a place in the marketplace, but you want to see advancements. You want to see growth. And the growth is actually happening currently on the system right now. And it's not from NVIDIA, it's actually from their sort of, I would say, competition with AMD. Now, this is something that was first discovered with Nintendo Switch Sports. I remember talking about it, and I kind of theorized, well, how would this be going forward? AMD has something that's similar to DLSS technology, but instead of being based on different things, it's actually based on math and doesn't require any sort of dedicated hardware to do it. It's just something that can be done. When Nintendo Switch Sports was coming out, there was some information found with this game, basically in the cliff notes of it, saying that this was something that was potentially in the game. There was credits given to AMD for their Fidelity FX and Fidelity FX Super Resolution technologies, FSR for short, and basically everyone was kind of like, huh, well, what's going on with this? Our good friend Oatmeal Dome, who, I don't know, he's not really my friend. I've never talked to him, but I've sourced him a lot on this channel, actually made this discovery as well within basically data mining what Nintendo Switch Sports was about. Now, what does this do? Essentially, it's very similar. It takes lower resolution images and upscales them into a higher resolution. While it might not change the image itself as far as what is being perceived, it does give your mindset and your eyes basically a better look at the game because things are more clear. There's better pixel density within this, and everything just looks better overall. Now, it seemed like Nintendo Switch Sports was kind of the outlier. It didn't seem like anything was going to happen sort of beyond that because there was was other Nintendo games that have obviously come out between now and then that have not utilized this technology. But it has been recently discovered that a huge Nintendo Switch game that's coming out next month actually utilizes this technology as well. And there's actually going to be a demo happening next weekend so that you can actually see this firsthand, and that is Splatoon 3. So as we can see here by good old Oatmeal Dome once again, he made a tweet a couple days ago saying that Splatoon 3 appears to be using AMD Fidelity FX Super Resolution 1.0. Note that this is not 2.0, which uses temporal upscaling using data from prior frames. 1.0 uses spatial upscaling based only on data from the current frame. So of course, there's lots of people talking about it. You can see right here that this is in the information for Splatoon 3 as far as the information is concerned, the credits of Splatoon 3 when you're on the Nintendo Switch eShop. So this is actually something very interesting because basically this AMD technology helped with on the Nintendo Switch Sports stuff was keeping your frame rates consistent. It wasn't necessarily about making a clearer image because the image looked good enough. I mean, how bad can a game really look when it has that sort of visual style? But the more important thing was about the frame rates, and that's pretty much what it was used for in Nintendo Switch Sports. So Nintendo seems themselves to be dipping back into this well once again with Splatoon 3. Now, of course, like I said, there have been other first-party Nintendo games that have released, but it kind of makes sense that these games are getting this AMD Fidelity stuff and the other games haven't. Of course, Xenoblade was made by Monolith with Nintendo's help. Mario Strikers Battle League was developed by Next Level Games with Nintendo's help. So those aren't really like more in-house games like you're seeing with this sort of stuff. So it kind of makes sense that we're starting to see this. So what does this necessarily mean for the future? Does this negate the need for a more powerful Switch console between then and now whenever the successor comes out? You know, it's still up for debate in my opinion. I do feel like Nintendo is indeed trying to find a way to maximize the Switch hardware as it stands now to get the best performance and the best graphics out of things. It makes sense. People like graphics. In order to enjoy a game, you do have to look at the game while you're playing it, so it makes sense that Nintendo would go down this avenue. It's really more so about how far down this avenue are they really going to go? Obviously, working with AMD instead of Nvidia might be a little bit of a suspect thing for some people, but it's basically just down to how the AMD Super Fidelity works versus the DLSS. DLSS is the more industry-wide sort of adopted platform that people use, but people also do use the AMD stuff. I do feel like for whenever we get a refresh or a new console from Nintendo, it would make perfect sense to utilize DLSS, pending that Nvidia is once again making the SoC or system on a chip for the system, because I mean, you'd probably get a discount and they could probably help you out with some things. But at the end of the day, this is once again another interesting pivot, and it's really something that was looked at as sort of a one-off thing, but now we're seeing it in more and more Nintendo first-party games. What does this mean for other games? Could this be potentially a reason, and we're gonna get really crazy with this, that Breath of the Wild 2 got delayed again? Maybe this technology was starting to be utilized by Nintendo. They tried it out on Switch Sports. They said, hey, this works pretty good. They put it in Splatoon 3 and they're like, hey, this worked pretty good. What if we utilize this in Breath of the Wild 2? There's lots of stuff in that game that people say can't necessarily be done on the Switch. People were saying left and right, oh, this looks like a game that could be on a different, successor platform or a refresh platform. You can make the same case about Mario and Rabbids. Could we see it in that sort of thing too? I don't know, but it is very interesting. It is very interesting to see how much they can get from this AMD Super Fidelity stuff, how much they can really draw from it to make the Switch games look and run better. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if we get a complete successor or a refresh of the system. I think everyone just wants the same thing. They want to be able to play their Switch games in the best possible graphical settings, in the best performance settings, and just be able to enjoy these games, have them look great, whether you're playing the system in handheld mode or playing the system natively on your television. It's going to be a very interesting few months for Nintendo, though. I think there's a lot of people that really just across the video game industry, everyone's kind of gotten into a bit of a lull. Everyone's kind of quiet. Everyone feels like they know what's going to happen within the next few months. But really, I think things are about, I know Spawnwave just made a video about this, but I think the gaming industry is about to get a big kick in the ass and a big jolt and like a big, steroid injection. and get things once again to be exciting. And you know what? I am all for it. So let me know in the comment section down below what you think about this. Are you an egghead who knows a lot about stuff like AMD Super Fidelity FX stuff versus NVIDIA DLSS? Do you see one platform being better than another for Nintendo? If not, that's fine, because I'm an idiot. I don't really know what I'm talking about half the time, but I did do some research for this video, so I could sound a bit smart. Yes, I do research things sometimes. Give me a little bit of credit, people. Give me a little bit of credit. And as always, thank you for watching this video. If you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button, like, comment, and share. Hit the bell notification as well. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.